from the Jackson.
What's up, y'all? This is Relly back with another video. Yes, sir. And today we'll be talking about the effects of trading Big Ben. And if you don't know who Big Ben is, that is Ben Simmons on the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, before I even start the video, I would like to give a thanks to amQuise for giving me this idea, for mentioning it, and also for featuring in today's video so we can talk about the effects and how he feel about the effects of trading Ben Simmons. Let that be positive, let that be negative, and even sometimes neutral. So with that being said, now we can jump straight into the video. Now you might ask, why will we talk about a video idea of this magnitude? And the reason being is Ben Simmons has still showed the inability to not want to shoot the basketball, which is becoming a problem, which is going to become a problem when it hits the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and when they get in a setting that is so important, especially when they're in the East and they should make it to the NBA Finals this year. Now, with that being said, I understand that Ben Simmons averages 13 points, 8.4 assists, and has a 53% field goal percentage. That's a pretty good stat line. That's a pretty good stat line for a player. But Ben Simmons, with his size, being someone that plays the point guard, we all agree that Ben Simmons' points should be higher. His assists should be higher. Field goal percentage is, about right for what he does. And he should be shooting more. I'm not saying he has to shoot 101 threes, but he should at least shoot like 3 threes a game and just maybe 4 or 5 high mid-range jumpers, just to build his confidence along the way, so by the time he gets to the playoff, he can understand that his team respects him enough to pull the trigger, because that's all they want him to do. And I have to get to the point of the video and say, what is the effects of trading Ben Simmons? The effects of trading Ben Simmons could depend on the scenario that happens in the playoffs. This is what I mean. If they get in a situation where they get to the playoffs, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, they play a team that is not as good as them in the sense of body counts and depth. They lose again because of the problems that they cannot shoot. They do not have the inability to shoot because they have too many players that is in the paint, too many players that's in a block, and then they have too many players that should not be shooting the ball, which in this case would be Embiid shooting the ball and Ben Simmons not stretching out the floor for Embiid. Now, if that situation happens again like last year, you got to trade Ben Simmons and try to get someone that can stretch the floor for Embiid. The effects of trading Ben Simmons could depend on the player they get. Now, if they get somebody who is, I won't say elite shooting, they don't have to be 99 2K 3-point percentage, you know what I'm saying? But they have to have a confidence about them to where they have to respect the ability to shoot. In retrospect, that would probably be Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal would probably be a player that would fit the build of a player that is not someone that's going to shy away from shooting the ball. He's a player that is not like Jimmy Butler, but he can be Jimmy Butler, but better offensively. And Bradley Beal is not the worst defender, but he's not the best either, but he can defend at that extent. But what you need is not someone who can play defense, because you got Embiid, you got Tobias, and you have Horford. You need someone who can shoot the ball. You need somebody who can get a bucket, and Bradley Beal fits that build to a T. He's a player that can show you up. Now, what is a scenario where it can be negative? If you trade Ben Simmons for a player that is not at the level of Bradley Beal, not at the level of Ben Simmons or higher, you might have cheated yourself. If you get in a situation where we're going to trade Ben Simmons for picks and depth, I think that notion is a failure. I feel like, yes, you want to have depth, but right now, since you're in the East, you might as well stock up on power. You might as well stock up on star value, because something that made the Sixers different from the rest is that you knew last year they had the star power to go against anybody. And technically they was the Warriors of the East. They just could not shoot like the Warriors because they had Jimmy, they had Embiid, they had Tobias Harris, and they had Ben Simmons, and they had a pretty decent bench with Jonathan Simmons and TJ McConnell and Boban, you know, and just those other, and Greg Monroe, and just a name a few of those players. They had the talent, they had the players, but they just failed to execute. And with that being said, you must recognize that if they just trade for role players, it's not gonna help Joel Embiid that much, because now, yes, you have role players, but that's not gonna really bring the attention away from Embiid because now you have less talent to work with, and you need a player that is bona fide to get buckets, because if that role player is not a Lou Williams type of role player, you defeated the purpose of trading Ben Simmons, and you high-key got finesse out of the trade. Now, a neutral trade would be somebody who I would say almost fit the bill of Ben Simmons in a sense, almost identical. Like, he's not someone that's known for scoring, but he's known for getting the intangibles like assists and rebounds, which somebody like that is not coming to mind. Oh, like Lonzo. If they trade Ben Simmons or Lonzo, even though that they got cheated. You know, you basically got another point guard that's smaller, that's doing slightly worse than Ben Simmons. So, but yeah. And with that being said, let me hit you over to amQuise so he can give you his points and validations of what he feels like is the truth.
How y'all doing? Is amQuise back with another video on behalf of Jarrell Hall. Some of the pros I believe are his height. He's 6'10" at point guard, which makes it hard for other smaller 6'3" guards to check him. He's a good playmaker. He plays good defense. He can run your offense, kind of, sort of. And I feel like his cons are his contract. He just signed a 5-year extension, $170 million contract. With that being said, if you take on that contract, you have to give up a star and who knows what else. His non-shooting abilities, he took 1 3 this season and made it in the corner. He don't really shoot the ball, so it's easier to play defense. I'm not going to say it's easy to play defense on him, but it's easier because he doesn't even attempt to shoot the ball. Teams can play better defense on the overall team because of him not wanting to shoot. Even though he still gets you about 15, 17 points a game without being able to shoot. So that's a good thing too. And that's how I feel about Ben Simmons and his trade value.
If you liked today's video, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe. And do not forget to hit the notification bell for more amazing content. We're on the grind for 150 subscribers, and we will get there. Remember to strive for greatness. Yes, sir.